So this happened about 12 years ago. My family owns a farm in the heart of an Indian reservation. One winter I was home for Christmas taking care of the farm while my parents were away Christmas shopping. As I was home by myself way late in the night, and I hear all our cows freaking out, I knew it had to be the wild dogs that are rampant in the area. So, I throw on some boots, grab a shotgun, load it, and head out to the field. This was a perfect scenario for a horror movie. It was cloudy, but there was a full moon, and it was breaking through the clouds just right to light up all the snow. I ran out into the middle of the field, and just in time to see two dogs that were standing up facing each other and fighting. I think, perfect, 2 for 1. So, I pump a shell into the chamber of Mr. 12 gauge, and then it happened. The two dogs heard the rack. They both stopped, looked over at me, and ran away. On their back legs. Immediately I froze, and every ghost story about SkinWalkers and all other natives legends I grew up with flew through my mind. Keep in mind, I am a white guy, and up until then, these were all just boogeyman stories the native kids tell us to scare us. That night, they became real to me. The first time he was driving alone on a road that has an open field to the left of it, when out of nowhere, a black figure on all fours bounded out of the field and across the road in front of his car. As soon as the figure got out on the other side of the road, it stopped with inhumane quickness, turned around, and looked directly at my roommate. He described the figure as looking simian, completely black except for the face. The creature's face was a stark white human face. Not white as in Caucasian, but white as snow. This happened again a few weeks later, but this time the creature was sitting in a tree. As his car approached, it climbed down from the tree again with inhumane quickness, bounded across the road, stopped on a dime, and turned around and made eye contact with him. This time he had a friend in the car who also saw it and began freaking out. It was the exact same thing as the first time. A simian, black body with snow-white expressionless human face. My roommate, even the curious one, turned the car around and began searching for the creature, but it was nowhere to be seen. This didn't happen to me, but a very close friend of mine. I've heard a lot about coyotes and skinwalkers, and had a weird experience or two with coyotes. Creepiest was waking up to my sleeping bag being surrounded in paw prints without ever hearing them during the night. But never anything paranormal, so to speak. Patrick's story, however, kept me from going back to a favorite backcountry secret stash. He was leaving the area one morning, had been camping there a couple days, and said there was a coyote that always seemed to be close by, like in his peripheral vision, but never overt. He loaded up his truck and started to drive down the washout to the fire road. At the end of the wash, he could see the coyote following him. When he pulled onto the road, it was running next to him. Now he was freaking out, so he sped up. He said he was going 35 or so, and it was running along beside him. Definitely not possible. When he looked back, the coyote was running on 2 legs and was wearing what Patrick said looked like buckskin pants. An instant later, it was a person wearing a coyote fur, keeping pace with his truck. When he looked again, it was gone. We never went back to the grove after that. This all happened about 5 years ago. One night, a few of my friends decided after a night of hanging out that we'd go on an adventure at about 3 a.m. We took a ride about 50 miles to this old Spanish ruin that was once the seat of the Inquisition. I can't for the life of me remember what the place is called. So we jumped the front gate to the place and started exploring. One of my friends brought a flute with him and started playing it, and about 30 seconds into his mediocre playing, something started screaming really, really loud on the tops of the long-destroyed walls of the place. It was going from wall to wall really quickly, screaming the most blood-curdling scream you've ever imagined. We noped the fuck out of there. One of my friends even pissed his pants, and drove for a few hours to Bandelier National Monument, where we planned to camp out for the rest of the weekend. We got to Bandelier at probably like 6 or 7 a.m. and set up our camp. After a few hours just talking about what the hell happened at the ruins, I went to take a piss, probably only like 300 feet from camp. This is where everything starts to get a little fuzzy. I remember seeing 2 dust devils coming my way, and when I turned around again, 2 of my friends were there, and they were motioning me to follow them. I couldn't help but to follow them, like I was being pulled behind them in shackles. I followed them for what seemed like 10 or 15 minutes, and then I snapped out of it. These weren't my friends. They had bright red hair, with my friends' faces and cat eyes. Both of these friends were brunette. I stopped walking and they looked at me with probably the most terrifying gaze I had ever seen. Monsters in movies are nothing compared to this. I turned around and ran as fast as I could back the way I came. After like 5 minutes of a full sprint, I got back to the rock that I had pissed at and found our camp. Everyone was there, still sitting around talking, and didn't even notice that I was gone. I told them what happened with the look-alike SkinWalkers, and we packed up everything and left, probably within like 10 minutes, and got the hell back to Albuquerque. My grandmother on my mother's side has always been very superstitious, for lack of a better word. She's not religious, but she does believe in a lot of paranormal stuff. Her mother was full-blooded Navajo, and her father was Irish. Either way, she'd never been anywhere east of Montana, and she grew up in Nevada. One year, when I was in grade school, we went to visit her. Most of the visit was pretty uneventful. Typical boring old people stuff. Except she always kept her curtains drawn shut and would always peek out the window, and when someone asked her what she was doing, she would simply reply, "Yinadlushi is watching me." This went on for nearly the entire visit until a few days before we were due to leave. My grandma and my then baby brother were in the front yard that evening planting flowers when all of a sudden my grandmother started shouting, "Get away from that creature, it's not safe." Of course, being in Nevada, we all assumed that my brother had found a scorpion or a rattlesnake, so we all run outside to see my grandmother clutching my little brother and shaking in terror against the side of the house. Standing out in the yard was a large, black, Great Dane-sized dog. It was staring at my grandmother with an intensity I had never seen before. It looked up at us, gave a little huff, and bounded off. I don't remember if it moved unusually fast or not, but I do remember it had really deep yellow eyes. When my mother asked my grandmother what had happened, she kept repeating, "The Yinadlushi has found me." She moved a couple weeks after that.